Yes guys, how's it going? So today we're doing a rocker cover gasket on a BMW 116i. This is the N13 engine, I think it is, in the F20 series shape, whatever, 2014 I think this car is. I've made a little bit of a start, but I haven't got too far to not show you exactly what I've done. So I will just recap now exactly what I've done so far and then what the next steps are from here, and then you can just follow along, and if it helps you out in doing your own rocker cover gasket, then awesome. So here's the car. It looks like a lot's happened so far, but realistically all I've done is I've taken out the airbox which just sits here. There's a mass airflow sensor just there, which has a tab on the back of it that you just push there, and that will lift the little lever inside just there, and then you can put it out. You may need to get a pick tool or something like that to help it pry on, because it is a little bit stiff, especially if it's not been out in a while. After that, you've got 1, 2 and a third grommet just underneath there. Where is it? There, I think. Yeah, anyway, there's 3 grommets that hold the airbox on. Just give them a bit of a pull. You may want to put a little bit of WD-40 on them if they've not been out again, because the rubber might get a bit dry. After that, you've just got a 7mm hex or a flathead screwdriver or something that can get that Jubilee clip off, and you've got that off entirely. Lift that out of the way. Second thing I've got is the engine cover. Now on this particular engine cover there is this little sort of vacuum reserve chamber, which has a couple of vacuum lines going into it, one which is just over there and one which I've just got held under here just to make sure I remember to put it back on again. So again, one there and one there. They'll be in the right positions when you put it back on anyway, so you can't really get them mixed up. So just pull that to one side and just leave it over here. You can get it out of the way. I'm leaving it there just so I don't forget to put it back with the hoses, but it's fine. And I'm also using it as a bit of a tray, so it doubles up. Once you've got that done, so far all I've done after that is I've just removed some of the bracing and the plastics up there, which you can see just on the floor there. So this is really basic stuff, but you've got these little 10mm hex kind of locking screws on the top there, so just give them a quarter turn anti-clockwise, lefty loosey, loosen them up on all sides. And then you've got a little pinch tab, just pinch that and pull it up. Obviously remove your weather strip, and then once you've got to that point, you can then take your E20, I think they are, 1, 2, 3 and 4, which sit across 1 and 2 over there. So you can just see there's got a leaf in there. I'll sort that out in a minute, but you can just see there's a hole there. 2 more under those little plastic things which these covers will be on. You can just use one of these to pick it off, and the same on the opposite side there. And then finally, just to get this last piece off here, is a few 10mm screws, so around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7 screws in total. That will just basically sit as a little tray across that aspect just there. I've actually left the little push fit clip in there, and I've just swung it to one side because you don't really need to move it out of the way. As long as it's clear of this area, you're fine. And I think that's about as far as I've got so far. The other thing I've done, which you can see, is I've unplugged the coils, which I'm now going to pull out, because obviously you need to take the coils out to get the rocker cover gasket and cover off itself. Once we've got to that position, all we're doing now is, which I'll show you as we go along, is just moving a bit of wiring and stuff out of the way and making sure we've got access to all the 10mm screws, bolts on the perimeter of the cover. So let's get that far now, get all the wiring out of the way, get the coils out of the way, and let's see if we can get access to it. Initially that looked a little bit scary. I mean, it does still look a bit scary, but sometimes in the more prone areas of leakage, a little bit of silicone or gasket sealer is necessary. But we'll come across that in a bit, because I have done a rocker cover gasket on a Mini in the past, and on the Mini, which is a Mini 1, which I think has the same engine as in this car here, but in a transverse orientation as opposed to inline longitudinal, I think it is. I can't even say the bloody word, but rather than rear wheel drive, it's front wheel drive. That one didn't need any, because the gasket that I chose actually had some reinforcements on it in the areas where you would usually put something like a bit of silicone, or I think the Americans will call it RTV. But basically some gasket sealer where the areas are likely to prone. I can't even speak, bloody hell. the areas where the gasket is likely to leak. You know what I'm on about. But anyway, I've got an L-ring one today, and we'll go along and fit that as we go. So let's get the next step done. So that's all the wiring out the way. At the end there, what you just saw me do, in fact I'm just finishing it off now, is there's a little 8mm bolt. I keep mixing these things up today. Little 8mm nut that holds on the grounds for all of the spark wiring, which is just here. Now what I did do is I used a 1/4 inch ratchet on an 8mm with an extension just to get it off most of the way, and then once it's loose, you've just got a tiny little magnet, and I've just twisted the magnet just to get the last bit off, because I don't want to drop that all the way down there, because if that nut drops, then we're not going to have any spark and the car probably won't start, just from something as small as that. So make sure you don't drop that. If not, get a couple of spares with you or something, because they're only cheap and small anyway, so you can probably get some out of like an assorted box. But now I think for the most part we've got access to all of them. We may just have to move a couple of things with our hands just there, but you can clearly see we've got access to pretty much all of the bolts we need. Now this corner, I don't think there's anything there. I think it's just here. So between there and here, you're okay. So you should have enough access now to get everything off, and you can just see how bad it is. I mean, this might be a bit of a leakage, but down here you can see it's all murky and brown where it shouldn't be. And if I was to touch that there, you can just see a little bit of residue on there. All down the side here as well, it's all horrible and gunky. So what I think was happening with this car is the circular gaskets inside the rocker cover that seal the sparks, or the spark plug tubes, oil's been seeping through there and fouling out the spark plugs, causing misfires. We have already changed the coils and sparks, but I did pull out a spark plug on the last diagnostic, and they were a little bit murky, a little bit oily. So I think that's probably been the cause. There is also another one which we are going to do today, is a air leak. So I did a smoke test not too long ago, and this vacuum wire going to just under there, I don't know if you can see it, but not that one there, just down there is a little bit oily, and it was leaking smoke past it during the test. So we will be getting a new one of those from BMW, and then getting that changed, and that should hopefully solve majority of the misfires. One thing that I have read up on with these cars is that the ECU can start playing up and causing misfires on these. So I'm not sure exactly what happens, but there is people out there, well, one person in particular found on a bit of Google searching, that actually can recondition or repair the ECU. I think there must have been like a blown capacitor or something within there, I don't know. But you basically send it off for about 250 quid or something, get it redone, and plug and play from your perspective. You just send it off, he does what he needs to do, brings it back, you put it all back in, and you're good to go. So hopefully this does resolve the misfires. We're going to do a bit of a scan afterwards and to see if everything is all good, and take it from there really. But regardless, you can kind of see the state of the gasket anyway, so it's definitely due a change. And it's on, I'm thinking something like 80 odd thousand miles and a 2014 plate, so even if you wasn't leaking at this point, it's a good process to do from a maintenance point of view anyway. I've also got this E70 X5 30D in with me, and it's had a few bits. So I've had a service done. I've also had I did it. The rear discs and pads are done. I've just got to adjust the rear handbrakes to make sure that they grab into the new discs, and I think there's a grinding in procedure to do on there, which is fine. And as you can see here, we are going to be doing the wheel bearing. Now luckily this is a bolt-on type wheel bearing, but for the last hour or so and continually, I am going to just make sure I'll give them a bit of a soaking, because these are however many years old now. I think this is a 61 plate, so 2010, 2011. So yeah, it's probably going to be a bit of a difficult one to come out. So I have been giving these a bit of a soak for the last hour or so, and when I had this up in the air like this a few days ago. The reason why we're changing this bearing is because the magnet on the back of the wheel bearing, it seems to be may be dirty or corroded or broken or something, because at certain points the signal completely drops out. Now the signal is still there, and what's it called? The signal is still coming through from the sensor, so I'm not inclined to think that the sensor is faulty, but it is happening at a certain point, which when you have a reluctor ring, sometimes like a broken tooth or a notch on the reluctor ring causes that too. But it's a similar concept with the magnet as well. If the magnet isn't giving that magnetic field at a certain point when it turns around, then it's not going to communicate with the system. The system's going to have a lack of data, and ABS light comes on the dashboard, which is exactly what we're having now. Now I have tested power and ground all at the ABS sensor, and it's all fine, and it's also confirmed by the fact that we're still getting a signal in from the ABS using live data. But I'm inclined to think it's the bearing, because of how the data drops out at a certain point every single time the car drives. So what I've driven the car up here and back a few times at the same speed, and you can see that it happens on a really regular basis. So like it'll happen every, I don't know, if you're doing 5 miles an hour, every 2 or 3 seconds, you know, or something like 5 seconds, I can't remember what it was, but it was every something seconds it was happening, meaning that the bearing is probably at fault, or the magnet on the bearing is probably at fault, and not the sensor itself. So that's just a little quick insight into what I'm doing there. But anyway, back to the I'll say back to the Beamer, both Beamers, back to the 1 Series. That's the rocker cover off. If we have a little bit of an inspection around it, there is a little bit of gunkiness in there, I can't lie. There's a lot of old oil around here, around there, so it's probably missed a few oil changes, but that is not down to the owner that's had it recently. That is down before that, because he did buy it with, you know, minimal service history. So yeah, this is the importance of changing your oil on time. You miss all that gunkiness, but hopefully we can. I'm not going to be able to get rid of it, but maybe if we just do a few engine flushes, it might just progressively over time, as we do changes, get rid of a little bit. But yeah, there's not a lot we can do, I guess, with that. But yeah, anyway, you can see here that the chains are lovely and tight. There's no play whatsoever. We're going to give now the surface of all of this area here, all around where the rocker cover will sit, all a really good clean. It's got to be absolutely spotless, otherwise we're going to get leaks, because the gasket's not going to seat properly. There you can see the little bit of sealant that was used just to secure the extra bit over there, and there's probably going to be a couple of other bits that, to be fair, I can't see any actually. It looks like it's just this bit here. So typically what happens is you want to put them in the ridges just there and just in there, and again places like this, just to make sure it all seats down properly. But I have got a gasket, I should say I have used a gasket in the past, where they've got like these reinforcements, so like much thicker areas of rubber on those parts of the gasket, so you shouldn't actually need to use it, which is better, because I hate using the stuff. I've never used it personally. That's a bit of a bodge, to be honest, and I don't like using it whatsoever. But in certain areas where they are prone for leaks, obviously we'll have to kind of use it just to make sure there's no leaks. But yeah, we're going to get all that nice and clean now, and get it all back together again. So a little bit of time has passed since the last update just now, because I did notice a little bit of a crack on the rocker cover itself. So and it happened to just be where the gasket's going to seat. So I've had to just go and pick up a brand new rocker cover itself, and it actually has the gasket on there. What we've gone with is a BGA cover and gasket, and I have also just picked up this hose right here from BMW, because this part here on the one that's on the car right now is starting to let the smoke go past it. So as you can see, there is a little O-ring just there, which has probably perished on the one that's on the car right now. So we will get that changed once we've got the rocker cover and everything back on, because that's a fairly simple thing to do. And yeah, let's get the surface prepared now, and then we can get the new gasket on there and nice and, well, torqued up to spec. So let's get to it. Before I go any further, I kind of wanted to show you on the gasket itself where the areas are a little bit reinforced. So if I flip this around, you can just see in this area here, how much thicker the gasket is. Also on the edges just here, it also becomes a bit thicker. You can kind of see it more so on this side where it starts there and sort of ends there. And also on, I think that's it. So those are the kind of areas in those two corners here and in this little ridge here where basically the sealant would probably come into play, but I don't like using sealant, and I'm glad that the BGA gasket here actually comes with a slightly thicker area, so it's it offers a bit more protection against those kind of prone areas rather than having to use sealant. Now if I go back to the car, that's the area there where there used to be sealant. As you can see, there is some there that I can't quite get off. It's just far too hard, and if I go too aggressive with it, I may start scoring or damaging the actual surface there, and that's the last thing I want to do. So I think that's still smooth enough for the gasket to sit quite nicely. So yeah, you can see just in that area there, and also the two areas at the back there where you probably apply sealant. I think it may actually be in technical information around that as well, but yeah, I'm not going to do that because I don't like sealant or silicone in any form. And I'm happy because obviously the gasket itself doesn't have has reinforced areas. So anyway, let's continue getting this back on. Like that, everything is back together, I meant to say. I may have got a little bit carried away with putting everything back together because I've got to get the engine cover back off again just for a sec, because I want to make sure that there's no leaks when I put the car on. So I know that there's two vacuum lines on the back, but I'll just put it there like that. Hopefully everything is plugged back in together as well. I'm pretty sure it is. I did just double check everything. And everything is routed back in and tucked in the same way as it came out. So everything is nice and secure and tidy. That one there isn't though, but it will be in a sec. It will be in a minute because I can't record and do it at the same time. But I am just going to put the engine on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, with a little bit of luck, everything should be working nice and cool. So let's do it. I'll do it in real time because I'm going to be honest if there's any mistakes. Here's the key, touchdown. Let's go and have a look. Lovely jubbly. Looking down this way. So far so good. So I'm going to let this run up to operating temperature and let the oil circulate for a bit longer, and then we'll see how we're looking. Okay, so it's been about 15 minutes or so now, and it's been idling for, you know, the whole 15 minutes, and I think we're looking good so far. So I've put the cover back on, but you can still see the edges just there. Doesn't seem to be any signs of any leaks. Same across the front here, we're looking good, and obviously that side I've just checked as well, looking good as well. So nice. I'd probably say that's job done. So in terms of installations, a couple of things that I forgot to mention. The rocker cover gasket, or the rocker cover bolts, are torqued up to 10 Newton meters, and it's done in a star pattern starting from the middle going outwards. What else is there that I've missed off? I usually put a little bit of red rubber grease on the gaskets as well before going in, just to make sure that if there's any movement when I'm seating the gasket down or the cover down, then obviously there's no pinching or twisting or whatever, you know, of the gasket itself. And it can't harm anything anyway, so it's all good. That's about it really. It's the only part that was a bit of a faff on this one was just making sure the rocker cover is seated down properly. It was a bit fiddly. The best way I found to do it was to go from the, if you're looking at the car, go from the front left first, seat that, and then go to the back left, and then once that whole side is down, try and wiggle it around gently to make sure that it all seats properly. It will locate itself eventually and it will just drop and it'll sit down, but it is a bit of a faff, but yeah, it's doable. But yeah, I think we're looking good. So I'm going to end the video there. As always, if you liked this video, please do comment, like, subscribe. I want to hear your thoughts on it. How, if you've done this job before, how did you find it? How's this video helped you? I'm more than happy to make more videos like this if it helps you. So yeah, if you liked it, do all those stuff, and I will catch you next time.